All right, and it says we're online. Ken, are you with us? You just popped in. Awesome. I,
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
yeah, you're a little quiet, but it's okay. You're coming through fine. I got good headphones. Okay, fantastic. Well, I think that's probably everybody. I think we're only actually missing. Let's see. There's one, two, three, four, five. So we are missing two people then. We're missing Chris. Chris is frequently with us, right? And then Daniel is an asynchronous student. He's not able to join us in the live sessions, and that's okay. Okay, so let's talk about this. What's CIA? From an information security standpoint, what is CIA? This is something you guys should already know. Or I would think. If you don't know, I need to know.
Confidentiality, integrity, and availability, I think.
Yes, ma'am. The Holy Grail, the Trinity, the CIA triangle. So everything we do from a information security, organizational security, or any modern security program needs to take these three things into account. And I think we've talked about these a little, but we have to understand what our actual goal in our organization is. What type of organization needs to keep things confidential? Like confidentiality is number one. Those other things don't matter because confidentiality is key. And I really feel I have deja vu that we've already had this conversation, so it should go quick. Health? Nope. Integrity is more. Integrity and availability do trump confidentiality in the healthcare industry. Don't ask the regulators to not fine you for it, but you also don't let the person die to keep somebody from overhearing their medical history.
Military.
Absolutely. Military, sometimes law enforcement, even state homeland security. Texas has a Department of Homeland Security that is the Texas State Department of Homeland Security, which is a little known fact. It's not a very large agency. It's not a law enforcement agency, but it is a policy-making agency, and they work hand in hand with a whole bunch of other agencies like DPS and such. I actually didn't learn about that until the last year when I was doing some work with the DPS. And I found out that there is, in fact, a Department of Homeland Security for the state of Texas, which is totally crazy for me. There's also a Senate, I think it's a Senate subcommittee on Homeland Security for the Texas state legislature, which I found to be completely insane. I thought that was a federal only thing before this past year. But for those people, confidentiality is important. We would rather nobody have the keys than the wrong person have the keys. I'm definitely having some deja vu. I think I used nuclear launch codes the last time I did this, and we would rather not be able to launch our own nukes than to have the wrong person launch them back at us. We would rather nobody have the keys. So confidentiality is key for that type of reasoning, that type of organization, agency, etc. Integrity, I already said health, so give me somebody else. Who wants integrity as their guiding principle? Somebody almost talked, but yeah, Rebecca says the banking industry. Absolutely correct. How many of you want to be able to rely on the integrity of your bank account being accurate to the right amount of money every time you go there? Pick me. I want all my money to be there, and I want to be able to rely on how much is there. Now, if they could reliably add money without me having to pay taxes on it, that would be great. I don't think that mechanism exists currently, and so I just want to be able to rely on the data I'm given and that I have this much money left so that I know how much money I can spend on new bathroom repairs. Or I guess it's remodeling, not repairs. And what about availability? Availability is huge. Am I catching everybody with their feet on the desk away from the microphone button? I think I am. No. Andrew, if you've been talking, we cannot hear you. It says your microphone is off. It was working earlier when we were talking. It says it is turned off in software. Okay. Wait. Now it says your microphone is on. This is an example of availability not occurring when we need it. We need his microphone to be available. Currently, it's the only thing he wishes could happen. My eyes are really red, by the way. My allergies are killing me. So I apologize for my lack of screen acumen or whatnot today. Anyway, web services, streaming, etc. We want that to be available. I feel, yeah, definitely. I think we already had this conversation. Netflix is an availability service. They would rather that it be delivered in crappy content quality with low integrity and for everybody to be able to see it, even if they forgot to buy the service, than for the people who paid for it to not be able to get access to the service. Its availability is key to their business model. They would like to be able to keep things secure and only give access to it to people who have paid for it and such, but they would rather the paid customers be able to get to stuff than have a couple videos leak here and there on a streamed basis. They can plug those holes later, but they need the mainstream to keep working. Okay. Does anybody know what the principle of least privilege is? I'm going to run through some vocabulary before we get into the models. Yes. Rebecca knows. Jose? Andrew? Well, Jose, Ken, you want to tell me what least privilege is?
Yeah, it's just giving a user just enough privileges on his account or an application even to be able to perform their function, their duty, and not giving them anything they don't need.
Right. And people frequently, they're like, I need more. And they grumble, they gripe, and whatnot, right? Because they have to jump through a hoop to install something, even though they forget that they're not actually in charge of that computer. They don't own that computer. And that thing they wanted to install is not actually central to their job description. And the principle of least privilege says that we don't give that person the access to do that, that if they want those things added to their computer, they have to go through the proper procedures, file the paperwork, get approvals, check it against licensing, get it paid for if it needs to be paid for, get the approvals if it's, sometimes software is free for the normal user, and they're like, I use it at home every day. But you bring it into the business world and try to install it, and the next thing you know, you're being slapped with lawsuits because you're using free for personal use software commercially because you're using it at work for some business function, which is not only unethical but illegal. And that's something that organizations have to be aware of. AVG, which is the antivirus software, AVG, is a great prime example of this, and that is that they are trying to build up a user base by offering antivirus software at home for free, but they're not allowing businesses to use it except for like a 30-day trial for business use. And it looks like Andrew bounced out. He's going to come back. They're giving them a 30-day free trial for business use, but beyond that, it's supposed to be a paid-for service, and they can come back after the business for licensing after that, and it can be quite costly. And if a user is given too much privilege and are able to install AVG on their own system without going through the proper channels and vetting, it's possible that that company could hold that individual liable, and or that individual could make the company liable to an outside party for their infractions. Because when the military loses a secret, who pays the price for that secret? It's not the person who leaked it. That person gets punished, but they're not paying the price for the leaked secret.
It's the entity that lost the secret.
Yeah, it's the whole entity. There's no way around it. The whole military-industrial complex pays for every lost secret, every leaked everything, little tidbit of information, which is why they need to apply the principle of least privilege whenever, wherever possible. Okay. What about state machine? Does anybody know what a state machine is? I'm sure in reference to firewalls, you've heard stateful and stateless, but those are for technical implementations. I mean, it's actually relevant to here, but what's a state machine? Anybody? Nobody? Jose?
I don't know. It sounds
No?
familiar, but I don't remember.
Oh yeah, I get that a lot actually. A lot of these topics that we cover throughout this class, we've heard of. People have thrown these words around. State government. No, that's a good guess, but no. A lot of these words are used improperly. They're used in reference to other things. They're used by people who know what they're talking about, and we just overhear it. But a state machine is a machine, a system, or anything where we've mapped out every possible state. We understand the entire state of that machine. We know if it's a gear system, right? We know the exact position. Every time I advance the cog, this one goes up. We know that, right? We know every possible state. If it's a binary system, it's easy. It's on or off. We can map that. If it's a binary tree, we can go down and we can draw a giant picture. In fact, one sec. If we're troubleshooting, we can make ourselves giant flowcharts that go through every possible instance. It's a state machine. We understand every possible case that we're trying to follow, and everything the machine can be doing. That's called a state machine. Okay? If every single state of the machine can be understood, mapped, predetermined, and referenced against, that's a state machine. And that's going to be important here in just a minute. What's DAC and MAC? Anybody know? These are pretty common terms. And they're right in line with ACLs. I like to call this alphabet soup. DAC, MAC, and ACL. Anybody?
ACL's access control list, right?
Absolutely. Access control list. What's an MAC and a DAC? I'll bet you can figure out that the A is access.
Oh, a MAC is machine access code, right?
No,
No, not a MAC.
you're thinking MAC address.
Discretionary access control and mandatory access control.
Yep. There you go. Did you Google it or did you just figure it out?
No, that was Google.
Okay. Hey, Google is legal. Don't ever forget that. The days where the chemistry professor gets to hide the periodic table of elements are behind us. Okay. I haven't defined them yet. I've only had them say what the acronym stands for. It's DAC is discretionary access control. MAC is mandatory access control, and ACL is an access control list. Okay, so these are important. We use them all over the place, right? Jose, since you've got Google up, why don't you tell us what a discretionary access control is?
Let's see, Unix style permission checks and POSIX. Hold on, let me look up the definition.
Okay, I'll let you do discretionary. I'm going to go ahead and do mandatory. Mandatory is no matter what, the controls, the access control list, the controls in place, the system in place are always there. Every single transaction, every manipulation, access, or other interaction with an object on a system in an organization or in a model are always mandatorily controlled, access controlled. Yeah, and we're going to talk about TSEC in a little bit. Okay? Discretionary access control is something that came later. Mandatory access control came first, just so you know. But that's because systems were simpler when mandatory access control and state machines were being used to define security models. Okay? What's an access control list?
It's where you give your permissions for other systems and users on your on your devices.
Right. It's literally a list of all users, all objects, and their access levels. Okay? It's that simple. Have any of you ever used Active Directory? I know that Jose and Andrew have, and I reckon Ken has. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, Active Directory? Gloria?
No.
No. Okay. So an Active Directory is a computer management system developed by Microsoft Yeah, you probably were exposed to it, Rebecca, but I'll go ahead and go through it since Gloria hasn't worked with it. Where we can define users, groups, and and using users and groups, we can give access to everything and control access to everything. There's system level, all the way at the top, and then there's basic user and everything in between, and then there's read, write, delete, etc. Okay, and if you are a member of an administrators group, then there's a predefined. If you add a user to an administrators group, then there's a predefined list of system-level activities that that person is allowed access to, and they're very high. You can do anything you want on the system if you're an administrator. Okay. If you are a member of the super users group, you can get access to some things. You can install some things depending on how they've got super user defined. You can allow certain changes but not others depending on how they have it defined. A super user group is a group that needs to give access to change the disk for, say, I've got some software that you have to have administrator level control to run, but if they don't want me to have complete administrator access to the whole box, all they have to do is give me administrator rights to that program, and they can do that by defining that program in the super user list. And so if you have a level of, if you want a given group access to a certain type, so every Word document on the entire system, every administrator needs to be able to see every Word document on the entire system. And so anybody who is added to the administrator group will be able to see everything, every Word document. Is that making sense? It's not my best Active Directory description without a whiteboard to write on, and I don't trust that you'll be able to see that one if I start writing on it. Also, I'll lose all my ideas. That's where I dump them. So, Gloria, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. It's also known as a lattice access model, or an access matrix. Okay, which access matrix was the next thing on my list. Active Directory is a form of that, and Active Directory uses ACLs on both sides to develop its matrix or lattice. Okay, what's information flow? This one, everybody should have an intuitive grasp of, right? What is information flow? Tell me how information moves, how it behaves, how, what types of information flow what ways? Are there distinctions? There are. Spoiler alert. Up, down, and sideways. Yes, absolutely. What kind of information flow does gossip have? Think about gossip. Tell me about gossip. This is when being in a real classroom helps, because there's no microphone mute buttons in the class, and I can point.
I mean, it spreads, it like multiplies. So
Yeah.
It starts with one person, then 2, then 4, then 8. It's exponential.
Yeah. If Billy and Bobby are talking, and Bobby goes over to the water cooler and tells Cindy, Alice, and Joe, that communication line already increased drastically. And there's no integrity check, because the first guy, which was that Bobby? I already forgot my names. I should have drawn a list. Which is part of the problem being illustrated right now, is the communication is very fast. The entire group will know everything very quickly, but nobody is going to go back and ask the original source whether or not the story has remained the same, right? Everybody's been a part of a gossip tree, played the telephone game, the experiment. But the information flow is it starts one place and it starts to spread really fast. It's got a high permeability. If you think back to chemistry and biochemistry, if you ever had those classes about how there are semi-permeable membranes that pass certain fluids faster than others, and how you can blow cells up by getting too much water in one direction. This is that. Gossip is that. It's how you blow up cells in your organization. And you need to understand how that flow works. It's fast and it's frequently malignant. And so there needs to be checks. Professionalism usually is the check for that in the workplace. But what are the types? Journalism. Talk to me about the flow of information for journalism. How does the news happen? Anybody?
Well, now it's social media, so it's coming from everywhere, isn't it?
Sure.
It's
Which
not
is
like it used to be where a couple people would tell one guy, he would write a report, investigate, and then distribute it to the masses.
right. But in terms of journalism, actual journalism, that's still kind of how it's supposed to work. They are definitely supposed to check their sources before they and get their story right before they put it out there. But that doesn't always happen these days, and it didn't always happen in the past, right? We've had yellow journalism, sensational journalism, all kinds of other stuff, and there's always been this need for a high pressure for upward transmission, right? Because it happens down at the street, and somebody listens and hears it. Say a reporter, well, that's one of our communication nodes in this system, down at the street level hears an informant and something or about a story, checks into it just a little, maybe does a Google search these days, maybe just checks and sees if the hashtag is trending, who knows. And the next thing you know is they've sent this up their chain to their editor, and it's part of the nightly news that night. And it hasn't even been checked, or it wasn't even newsworthy, right? Totally possible. Totally possible for it to move up real fast because it's a very high pressure. The pressure to get the story out first has always, scooping the other reporters has always been a huge thing. But there's an intangible property of pressure on communication. Permeability and pressure are great descriptions for how communication is affected and or restricted, right? The Supreme Court cites chilling effects on communication when we're like, you can't talk like that. And those happen in the workplace too, especially when there's a culture of sanctioning or a culture of not listening or non-responsiveness when a whistleblower comes forward or when negative things need to be discussed or whatnot, right? And communication is the next section, if I recall. Or no, communication is what we were going to cover last week. That's why I'm going through some of this. Because communication is critical in understanding information flow and lines of communication. I've already brought up how we determine the total number of communication channels many times. It's n times n minus 1. I won't make you regurgitate it again. Excuse me. But it's critically important to understand the flow of information in your organization, the types of information, right? Whether or not it's sensitive information, proprietary information, because some sensitive information is not proprietary. Everybody knows there are some little dirty secrets that everybody knows and nobody wants to talk about out in the open. That's sensitive. Other information is sensitive because it's not because of its content, but because of its proprietary nature. We're the only ones that know this industry secret, and we would really, really, really like that nobody else get this secret, right? And I'm sure you can come up with examples for both of those things. But understanding the information flow is absolutely critical, and the needs that drive that information flow. Does anybody have a need to know? And need to know is frequently associated with government and security clearances and such. You don't need to know that, so no need to know. Get out of the room. Which brings us to formal access control models. In my announcement earlier this week, I asked you guys to look up a couple. Did you guys find any? There are some very common ones. I gave you one example. What was it?
Bell LaPadula.
Yep, Padula or Padula. There's no consensus on that, by the way. Bell LaPadula or Bell LaPadula. I like saying Padula. What else? That's the one I gave you.
Biba, I think. I don't know.
Biba or Biba, yeah, I have no idea. And in fact, one of my colleagues who makes YouTube videos about this at another university has repeatedly said he has no idea if it's Biba or Biba. So you say Biba, I say Biba, but as long as we both know that we're talking about the access control model, it doesn't matter. It's the guy's name. And some people also call Bell LaPadula the Bell model to avoid having to say LaPadula or LaPadula. What's another one?
Role-based?
Role-based, absolutely. Clark Wilson. Clark Wilson is the next one I expected to hear because these three are frequently talked about back to back to back to back. There's another one that frequently follows them. Any idea?
Rule-based?
Rule-based is frequently a characteristic, but is not necessarily a model, because all of these models are rule-based. Or did you say role-based or rule-based?
Well, I said both, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Most of these models do establish rules, and if there is one that's specifically called rule-based as a specific model, I haven't used that one myself. Pardon the typing noises. I don't know how loud those are on your end. Yeah, rule-based is the characteristic, and all of the models I'm going to give you are rule-based. They are not all role-based. Role-based is a specific type. What else? I love these things, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. Chinese wall. I haven't heard Chinese wall in forever. Can you give us a brief description in the typing while I wait for other people to chime in with one? Chinese wall is good.
That's the Brewer and Nash model, isn't it? The Chinese wall.
I don't remember who the thinkers were on that one. I haven't used Lecture 4 PDF. Did I give out a PDF? Okay.
My understanding it's a share competition. It eliminates the conflict of interest.
Yeah, there's a firm in Houston called Alert Logic, and they are all about that. They are totally about eliminate competition. Everybody works together. No silos, no special interests, no factions, no balkanization, no nothing. Everybody is on the same team, or they're off the team. What else? There's another specific one that's very common that I'm looking for. I do love the Chinese wall. Actually, I'm going to include that in my notes for next year.
There's a Graham Denning model, and there's also a matrix-based and Harrison Russo-Ullman model.
Yep, I got matrix-based. Are you just Googling these now? Because I've never heard of them.
No, I saw a video on the Access models.
Okay. There's a ton of them, by the way. There are Access models that I've never heard of, because I don't need to know every Access model to talk about Access models at large. And so I try to focus on the most common ones. But if you are interested in Access models, go to YouTube and start looking for Access control models. And or Access visualization models, and there's a couple other words. And one thing that people forget to do when they're looking for these things is they forget to take notes while they're watching the videos of the words that might help them find better videos for what you're after, or better content on the web for what you're after. One of the keys to scholarly literature search, and which we should probably talk about actually, is understanding the language that the scholars that are working on the topic are using. Because they frequently don't use colloquialisms. They don't use, for example, physical forensics scholars will talk about pipe bombs, and they will use the word pipe bomb to describe the type of bomb, but they will not use the word explosion or exploded. They will say deflagration. Good luck finding research about exploded pipe bombs. You have to find deflagration. It is a very, very frustrating lexicon to get into when you start to look into pipe bomb literature, which it turns out is actually a thing. And I know that because I'm doing a research project with the ATF and the physical forensics guys on pipe bombs. I'm specifically looking for the non-interference model. Anybody heard of that one? We're all very familiar with it. That's why I used it. Even if you didn't know its name, you're using it right now. Okay, let's go back and talk about Bella Padula. What's the star principle? By the way, the star principle is the key factor in a given access control model type. Okay, and so when we talk about the star principle, the star factor, the star power, the star whatever, they're frequently referring to whatever is the key. If you had to describe it in one line, what makes this one important, that's the star principle, the star power. So, anybody want to talk to me about Bella Padula, or do you just want lecture style? It's up to you. What is the intention of Bella Padula? What is the goal? The raison d'etre. I like French.
Maintaining the confidentiality.
Confidentiality. So who do we know uses this? Just by knowing their goals. We already talked about this earlier in the class.
Rebecca said military.
Yep.
Yeah, government and military.
Government and military, absolutely. You guys don't even need to turn your microphones off. You can just leave them on. That way you don't have to find the button to talk. Until we get crosstalk, if you're wearing headphones especially, you won't have any trouble with it. Yeah, and then you can just talk. Might help speed the pace up a little. Because I always feel bad when I just stop talking and wait, and then everybody else is just staring at the screen. All right. Confidentiality is the key is the reason for the Bella Padula model, and Bella and LaPadula came up with some characteristics. Anybody know what the characteristics of the Bella Padula model are without Googling it?
Simple star and strong star.
Well, yeah, but the star stuff is used as a way to discuss and compare different access control models. It's not the actual model itself.
That's the one with write up, read down, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's the no write up, no read down. So a person, what's the word? Oh no, it's no write down, no read up. I always get it backwards. So a person with a top secret clearance working in a top secret file cannot write down to a secret file. But all the stuff in a secret file can move up, right? More importantly, it's a mandatory access control model. It uses data classification, and it relies on security clearances, where are the main characteristics of the Bella Padula model. And every single interaction is mapped, which makes it what? Or is mappable? Sorry, that's probably very loud. Anybody? We covered it about 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago now.
Flow of information.
What's that?
It's the direction the information can flow.
Well, it does manage information flow. Yep, there you go, Rebecca. It's a state machine. Bella Padula is based on a state machine principle. Every single interaction, the way that we maintain confidentiality is by knowing exactly what type of interactions we will allow, mapping every action that is allowable, and denying everything else strictly. It's a state machine. Does that make sense? And so we don't actually have to remember whether it's write down, read up, whatever, because we just go back, check the list against the reference model, because we can reference our mapping for our state machine mapping. And if it doesn't fall in line with what the state machine will allow, we kick it. It's that simple. And it's every single interaction in the system is mandatorily controlled through a mandatory access list, or a mandatory access control. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. But yes, it's I always forget whether it's read down, write up. But the star principle is that I did get a picture for this. I had it ready, and I was going to put it up. I pulled up one for each of the models. There we go. Let's see, how do I share this out with you guys? Screen share. And there we go. Share. How's that look?
Good.
People at the bottom cannot read above them. People at the top cannot write down. Because we would need to make sure that we don't give away top secret material accidentally by writing down below our level. You can read anything you want below you, but you can't write down to it. And if you're at the bottom, it doesn't matter if your unclassified material filters its way up, but you cannot read above your station, above your classification level. Do you guys like the screen sharing? Because I actually have graphics up on my screen all the time to help me remember what I'm supposed to talk about. Are these helpful? I can start using these. Yes? Okay. I will do my best to incorporate these in future nights and the rest of tonight. Okay. Let's see. And move on. What's the next model?
Biba?
Biba. Hudahada. I have no idea how to say his name. Okay, what's the star principle, the star power of Biba? And what's the reason? Why do we care? Why was it developed? If Bella Padula is about confidentiality, and it's used by the military, who uses Biba?
They focus on integrity, so like making sure data isn't modified by somebody who's not supposed to.
Mm-hmm. But they also include a confidentiality component by the nature of it. It's very similar. Think of it as modified Bella Padula. Okay, that's how I think of Biba. Is it's modified Bella Padula because confidentiality isn't the #1 concern, but it is high on the list. It's number 2. But integrity is always important. So it focuses on non-contamination of legitimate data. Okay. And I had a great picture for them too. I have 4 monitors, by the way, so I'm having to figure out where I dropped it. I will do my very best to be faster about this part now that we're going to start using screen sharing. Pizza! I'm in! Oh, where is it? Of course it doesn't want to discuss this now. I've lost my good picture for Biba. It focuses on non-contamination, and it controls the read and the write for integrity. It stops the what's the word? I really need my picture. It controls read and write for integrity, not confidentiality. Confidentiality is a byproduct of the design because it allows you to read down and write up, and that's it. Everybody at the top can read down all the time. Everybody at the bottom can write, and it can be read all the way up, and it can be added to all the files, but you can't read up. And where is it? There was a great picture. Really want to share it. There you go. Found it. So if you recall, just a second ago, there was a line on the left, a line on the right, and stuff in the middle without showing intersections. And then I'm getting my screen share going. Share. All right, I'll get better at this part. And it's not showing up, is it? Is it showing up for you guys? Because all I see is a white spot on it.
No, it's a giant white spot.
Yeah, same.
Okay. I will stop it and reload it.
There it goes.
There we go. Okay. This was the one I liked for Biba because it simplifies things. And it shows that it's a pretty simple model. Okay, there it goes. But it's not my favorite model because most of us are not in a position where we need this, right? Health providers. This is a model that would be used by health. Why is that? Anybody? Why would health want to use Biba at a simplistic fashion? By the way, most organizations do not actually use any of these in their native form, just so you know. They use multiples frequently. Nobody's going to talk to me.
Well, for no writing up, obviously you wouldn't want like a nurse or somebody writing on your health records when a doctor or like a physician or somebody should be doing that. So I guess in terms of like some more personal information, you probably wouldn't want like your nurses and stuff seeing that or writing that ability.
Right, that you wouldn't want them to be able to add a diagnosis, for example. Right,
yeah, exactly.
The nurse should not be diagnosing anything, but the nurse does need to update telemetry information, for example, right? Your blood pressure, your heart rate, etc. The nurse is absolutely able to update that stuff because that's in their purview, and it's all part of the same record, but they don't have access to make changes to areas that don't fit their actual need. They can frequently read a lot of it. They can tell you what the diagnosis was, but they can't change the diagnosis. They can't update the diagnosis, etc. Okay. Tell me about Clark Wilson, because Clark Wilson affects us daily. In fact, it probably affected us just getting into this session. What's characteristic of Clark Wilson? Anybody? You're just reading about it now, aren't you? You're Googling it right now.
I am.
Okay, well, I'll just talk about Clark Wilson then. Okay, it focuses on change control over security levels. It's not nearly as concerned about who has the ability and access to get to what things, so long as they're not changing. It is a super integrity model. It is focused on integrity. It's not on integrity with, okay, we'll get to that other stuff later. It's integrity first, or rather, it is, we'll get to that other stuff later because integrity matters. Sorry, my mouth was going slower than my brain. So how do you accomplish that? Anybody? You haven't read that far yet?
You make like the person who like certifies the change, I guess, different than the person who actually like makes the change happen.
It can be, yes, actually. That's auditing and logging, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Actually, we're going to talk about tampering, logging, and consistency. Well, the first thing you do to maintain integrity is you make sure that no changes are made by unauthorized persons. And by changes, it's not just changes, it's access. No access to an unauthorized person, right? If they can't get access to the system, they can't change the system. It's that simple. Even a person who manages to gain unauthorized access to the system should not, if the system is working properly, be able to make unauthorized changes. So the first tenet is no unauthorized changes by unauthorized persons. And in fact, no changes, period, even if they're harmless. The next one is no unauthorized changes by authorized persons, right? This is where the principle of least privilege is coming right into play. Because even if you're an authorized user of the system, you should not be able to change things that don't fit into your purview, your job, etc. Should you guys be able to go into other students' profiles and change their anything? Should you be able to touch anything?
No.
No. Absolutely not. Even on a shared document, if I decide I want to share a Google Doc with you guys, right? I do not have to give you full author privileges to it. I can give you editing, I can give you reviewing, I can give you all kinds of different levels of privileges. I can change, you're an authorized user, but I don't want you making unauthorized changes to my work. I'm welcoming your feedback, but I do not want you to change my work. I need to change my work, and you're giving feedback because that's the role I've given you. And so no unauthorized changes by authorized users or subjects. Internal and external integrity and consistency is important, right? That's what Rebecca was saying, and that's absolutely correct. That's the next very, very important fact. The data doesn't change on either side of the equation, okay? And the data changes hands through an intermediary. This is where it's very important. How often do you guys actually give money directly to the account of somebody from whom you're buying the money or buying a product? Anybody? Has anybody ever put money directly into somebody else's account to pay them for something? Directly.
Yeah. I mean, PayPal, like, every day.
Nope. Nope. PayPal is an intermediary, man.
Hey.
The only way you could do that is if you met at the bank, handed the bank teller. Yeah, family doesn't count. Arguably, there's no integrity model in doing business with family. But the vast majority of us do not go to the bank with the person from whom we are buying something, handing the money to the teller ourselves, handing them the other person's bank account number, and then handing the person with whom we are doing our transaction the deposit receipt and expecting to receive a object or service or whatever in return, right? Nobody has ever done that directly, have you? Has anybody ever done that?
No.
No, because it's ridiculous, right? It's absolutely a ridiculous proposition to go to the bank and give the bank the money and hand the other person the deposit receipt and then expect to receive something. That's not the way things work. Okay? Even when we wire money from one bank to another, we're still using our bank as the intermediary to get our money to the other person's bank. It's not a direct transaction. Handing cash from one person to another is the only direct payment plan option, whatnot, non-mediated, and even then they're going to take it and put it in the bank. They're functioning as their own intermediary. Finance is the #1 place where this is used, right? Credit cards, obvious. The ACH, Automated Clearinghouse, are an obvious use. It's the model that keeps everybody honest because there's a trusted intermediary that validates the transaction. They validate that I handed them this much money. Say my credit card company, I'm being billed $100. They say I have submitted that I am willing to provide through my credit $100 to you. And then they go back and they say this person has provided $100 to you, and they put it in your account, and then your provider takes out their percentage. And they provide you with an accounting that is auditable, trackable, and the same on both sides. They say, I provided this much money, and we provided this much money to you. Right? Does that make sense? Trusted intermediary. Sometimes the intermediary is software. Sometimes the intermediary is a person. Sometimes the intermediary is who knows what. But as long as it's trusted and verifiable, it can fit into the Clark-Wilson integrity model. Okay? There are some other ways and places that we use this every day. How does a web application work? Anybody? A little side knowledge just in case you don't know. Give me a rundown on web application architecture. I ask the easy questions, right? Nobody has any idea how web applications run? Because I bet you do.
You mean like, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You mean like sign up, when you sign up for being able to access the web? Is that what you mean? Giving them information like your name and your email address and so forth?
That would be a workflow, and that's definitely part of the design. And I'm glad that's what you came up with because it lets me illustrate the difference. That's a workflow, and it's part of the design of the function. But the architecture is typically there's a front end that we see, right? We see this front end right here. You are looking at it. I'm pointing at you. Right? I'm not actually pointing at you. I'm pointing at this little camera that if I had a mirror, I would show you the camera. And I'm pointing at this little camera, and you guys are who knows where. Fort Stockton, Plano, Dallas area, probably down the hall. Andrew's probably down the hall from me. Jose is who knows where he went off to when he didn't have to come to my office anymore for class. Yep.
Oh.
Home, yeah, I see. So wherever home is. And you guys are all getting to this through some other service, right? We're getting to it from the front end, which is displaying the information that's relevant to us, but there's a trusted intermediary backend that's actually handling all the data. There's a database that's handling most of this stuff, right? Do you actually get direct access to databases when you're a user of a service?
No, they're all handled by like a script or a program that passes it on and off.
Right, exactly. It's all handled by an intermediary. Rebecca, you're absolutely correct. The answer is no. You never get direct access, and in fact, we work very hard to deny access once people started doing SQL injection attacks, trying to pass SQL commands through the front end, through the trusted intermediary, and get it into the back end to put out output that was not intended or welcomed, often malicious. To exfiltrate data, change data, whatever. We actively pursue denying those vectors of attack now in our systems that used to be vulnerable to such things. I'm also using some of the words that we are discussing in the forums right there. And we do that at the intermediary stage, right? I'm trusting my Google server to interact properly with the backend to provide me the content that I want to see. I trust Amazon to handle the backend to generate the content I want to see, to show me the things that are going to take my money. Right? Currently, it's little child Halloween costumes, and it's power tools for my shop, and they know this, right? I never called up Amazon and said, "Hey, my wife's pregnant. I think I'd like to look at baby clothes." Next thing you know, Amazon's showing me baby clothes. And it's because of that engine, that mediation that's happening, and they're modifying the back end without me. They're taking my input from the front end, they're mediating that, and they're modifying the back end of the database. I didn't log into the database, issue a select or change command, and change my tables, the Andy Bennett tables in the Amazon database. It just happened from my perspective. That makes sense? Both the form and the function, the form being this web app and this internet experience that we're all used to, where the database is isolated from the front end from the via a processing agent of some sort, to the financial transactions where it's most common, right? This is a very important model. And later on when we get into regulations, standards, and whatnot in section 2 of the class, which is next. That's next week. We're there. Awesome. When we start to get into those things, we are going to have to refer back to the Clark-Wilson model, because some of those standards are reliant on a trusted intermediary to maintain compliance with the standards and the regulations. Okay, let's get to oh, and it also functions based on restricting the data units, not the people, right? It restricts the data and provides the data to the authorized persons. Okay, now I want to talk about my favorite one, the non-interference model. Anybody? Any idea? It's the one we use the most. We're using it right now. Is there anybody using a Mac? Nope. I'm going to take that as a
Yes,
no. Yes,
am.
you're using a Mac? Okay.
Yeah.
You're probably still using it. But I know for a fact that if you're using Windows, can more than one user log in separately on your Mac right now? You can set up more than one user if you wanted to, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And would that other user be able to change your files?
No.
And you wouldn't be able to change their files, right?
Right.
Yeah. Non-interference. Don't interfere with my stuff, bro. That's literally it. It's my favorite one because for the longest time, anybody could interfere with anybody else's stuff on the system. All they had to do was know the right path. When they were first coming up with these systems, anybody could get to anything. And still, you know, if you have high enough level privileges these days, you still can. But you know, that's the reason we all are pursuing information security degrees and careers, because job security. Those problems still exist. But we give a little bit of foresight to that stuff these days, right? Even if I have admin level privileges on a Windows box, I can still be locked out of specific files. My specific name can be added to the deny list for another user's files. So my username outside of my user privilege level can be added to the deny list by that user, and I can't see their stuff. It doesn't matter how cool I am. The non-interference model is specifically built around exactly what it sounds like, and it's one user's actions not impacting or influencing the actions of another user on the same or similar system. Typically, it's shared login systems or whatnot. It doesn't matter if we all log into the same server. My Gmail does not affect your Gmail. My inbox does not affect your inbox, etc. Right? It's my favorite because it's very simple, but it also has these 4 things. It's the TLC principle is what it's called for the non-interference model, and that's keeps stuff from getting tampered with. One person's stuff is not tampered with by another person. Log everything to verify it. That's the L, TL, right? Log everything. Every single action on the system is logged so that it can be verified, double-checked, and we can show and prove that your actions caused your problems, not that guy's. Steve did not cause your problems. Cindy did not cause your problems. You caused your problems, and we have the logs to prove it because Cindy and Steve did not tamper with your stuff. And then there's consistency, and that is that the system treats the users the same all the time. If you are always separate from the other users, you're separate. If you're working in a shared space, you're working in a shared space until specifically it changes. You can expect that the system is not going to randomly decide to switch your state of user. Does that make sense? Is that pretty clear? Non-interference is pretty straightforward. Ken, haven't heard from you in a while. You still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Non-repudiation is a little different. Non-repudiation is integrity. Okay. All right. Lattice-based security models. What's this mean? Somebody brought it up right at the beginning. It's also known as matrix. What is a lattice-based security model? You guys have all done the little genetics charts, right? No? Nobody's done that? I'm drawing one right now. That's a lattice. So if you fall into group 3, anything that is tagged with group 3 you'd be able to get. Another way to see this is if you are is to think of it as the need to know model. Is a lattice model, right? The military frequently uses need to know. So not everybody who has a top secret clearance, they're at the top. Top secret SCI, specially compartmentalized information with polygraph and lifestyle polygraph is the top of the top that they tell us about in terms of security levels. Okay, and being at that security level doesn't mean you get to learn all the nation's dirty secrets. It means you can be trusted with a few of your own. Okay, but how do we decide which secrets you're allowed to be trusted with? Well, if you have the tippity top secret clearance, which is top secret SCI with lifestyle polygraph, and then there's top secret, secret, public trust, everybody else. Okay, and so if you are a top secret SCI guy, and you are an analyst tasked with evaluating North Korea and Iraq. Totally disjointed places in the world, but maybe you see a connection, and so you get access to all the files from Iraq terrorists and North Korean military. Okay? So you have a need to know about Iraq and North Korea. Over here we have a list, and we have top secret SCI, top secret, and secret. And we have all the things that are secret about North Korea, Syria, and Iraq. We have all the things that are top secret about North Korea, Syria, and Iraq. And we have all the things that are top secret SCI about North Korea, Syria, and Iraq. Well, you over here, you have a need to know about North Korea and Iraq. You need something that's at a secret level. You are already allowed for that because you have tippy-top security clearance. But we're not going to tell you about the secret stuff from Syria because you don't need to know about Syria. You have not been given a need to know, and it has not been identified. And so you can get access to all of our Iraq files and all of our North Korea files, and we separate you out. That's a lattice base because it's multiple characteristics, and we can match them up. And when all the characteristics match up, you get access to it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Is that a pretty clear description? I like to describe that with the function more than the equations. You can also go and find out there are math equations that describe every single one of these because mathematicians can put numbers and letters to everything. Okay, I had the North Korea thing down as my example. Good, I got that one right. Discretionary access model. I wanted to talk about the Trusted Computer Systems Evaluation Criteria. TCSEC. This is a lead-in to the standards and regulations models that we're going to start discussing. But there are standards bodies all over the world, right? Bodies like NIST, ITIL, and thousands of others. ISO, International Standards Organization. They had to work real hard on that name, by the way. And TSEC was established with a number of characteristics, and discretionary access control is the model that was given. And so based on the administration, the organization, and its discretion, you can determine that not every user needs to be treated equally, and that you can control some systems some of the time, some of the systems all the time, and some of the systems none of the time, based on business risk acceptance and business decisions and organizationally identified needs. Right? Because if you need to tear down all the walls, to solve a problem real quick, discretionary access control models allow you to do that. They allow you to turn it off, fix the problem, and then rebuild it. Right? And we're going to talk more about that one next week. We're going to talk about the organizational approach to security next week. Add the Chinese wall. I'm going through all my notes real quick to make sure I'm not missing anything. Anybody have any questions while I do this so far?
No, I'm good so far.
Okay. This stuff really isn't that hard. It just needs to be said. We need to go through it, and you need to have been exposed to it. And more importantly, it's also on certification tests like the CISSP and stuff like that. Ken, do you have a CISSP?
Not yet, no.
No, is it in your plans?
It is.
It is? Okay, so all the stuff we covered tonight, on the test.
Good to know.
Yep. Thought you might like to know that, because I figured you probably were. Rebecca, are you thinking about some certifications? I know that you're on the graduate certification track, right? So, are there any certifications you're interested in? Because I can start highlighting when the if I know what certifications you're after, I can start highlighting which of these materials are on those certifications. So, if there's one you're interested in, please let me know. Either email it to me or just remind me once in a while, and I'll make sure that when we cover information that you know that it's especially pertinent to you, because that's one of the value adds we can add, right? Okay. I have a question for you, and this is a discussion question, and so I want to see how this goes. But I would normally do this in an in-person class, and that is, what's the difference between information security and cybersecurity? Because our degree is information assurance and security. Other places offer cybersecurity degrees, and I'm curious what you think the difference is. Is there a difference? Is it two names for the same thing? And how do you feel about it? Because I think that it's an important business distinction that needs to be considered, whether or not there is, and it's going to change between the cultures of businesses. But for you, what's the difference between information security and cybersecurity?
I think for information security, it's more of an umbrella term. So, like, cybersecurity will be information security, but not all information security is cybersecurity. Because we still have paper. I mean, like the university, our grad studies storage unit is right next to where they do all the shredding for the university.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's information security. It's behind a locked gate where only one person has a key, and he only comes in X amount of times a week and shreds documents with student data on them and stuff like that. So that would be more information security, not necessarily cybersecurity, which is going to probably deal with more things in a digital fashion. So like your databases and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, I mean, databases are also information security, and you did say that it's both. But are there then aspects of cybersecurity that are not information security and assurance?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I feel like information security is such a broad term, obviously. So yeah, I mean, there's things that you're gonna want to protect that might not fall into like, oh, you know, I wouldn't categorize that as necessarily information security. So like cybersecurity might still fall in the realms of protecting your cyber resources and stuff like that, which I wouldn't say would be really information security, because it's you know, stuff like that isn't really information.
Well, Rebecca seems to agree with you for the most part. It looks like. Anybody else have anything? What's the difference?
It's a matter of semantics, isn't it? I mean, you're talking cyber is all data and data is all information. So if you count it like that, then you know, everything that has to do with cyber is based on information. So cyber, you know, or information, like you said, it could be paper. You don't have to have a computer in a room to have information. So I mean, like, it's semantics, really.
So for you, there's no real difference. You don't care.
No, I mean, there's a difference because obviously you're dealing with computers on one, and then you're just dealing with information on the other. But I mean, they're intertwined now because everything, a lot of information is on computers, and it's getting there more and more. At least that's what we want it to be. So
these things right here, these horrible, horrible little things. Mine's pretty beat up. These are a nightmare for information security professionals. They're also a nightmare for cybersecurity professionals. And no, in my opinion, they're not necessarily the same. Information assurance and security, I think, and information assurance specifically is I think, the academic overarching subject matter that cybersecurity falls into. We say information assurance and security in our program specifically because we want to emphasize security. Your degree is worth more if it says security, and we want to make sure that we come at the topic from a security relevant and aware perspective. But information assurance is huge. It's a vast subject matter. And when I talk to people, when I go out and do recruiting, and I tell them we have an information assurance and security program, and that's academic ease for cybersecurity. And I tell them that just to put it in layman's terms, that cybersecurity is one of the things we cover. It's just not the only thing because it requires a holistic approach. And I think that there's a huge need in business, and this is why I brought it up, because businesses can't decide who they want to hire, how they want to structure their business. They don't know how they want to structure their organization. They're going to rely on people like you to tell them how they should be structuring their organization for security. And it's not just physical security, it's not just cybersecurity, it's information security. And it's information assurance, because we don't just need to keep it secure in business, we need to be able to have assurances that it's accurate, excuse me, bad burp, and available. It needs to be all of those things all the time at the same time. And we very deliberately picked the degree name around that criteria. And and businesses can't decide if they're hiring a CTO, a CIO, a CSO, or a CISO. Anybody know what all those are? Anybody not know what one of those four are? What's a CTO?
Chief Technology Officer.
Yeah, absolutely. Chief Technology Officer. It's a very common title. What's a CIO?
Chief Information Officer.
Exactly. CISO?
Chief Security and Information Officer.
Yep, Chief Information Security Officer. Not Chief Security, Chief Information Security. And a CSO.
Chief Security Officer?
Yeah, it's not a heavy brainer there. Yeah. Health Information Technology, is that what you're saying, Rebecca? HIT? Making sure our vocabulary is the same on that one. Yeah, there's HIT and high tech, and we're gonna talk about high tech, the High Tech Act specifically. High tech is not in the health field. When you say high tech, you're not talking about high technology. You're talking about the High Tech Act, 2009, prior to the Affordable Healthcare Act, or Affordable Care Act. The High Tech Act is huge and has massive implications for our field, and we're going to talk about that next week because that's when we get into that stuff. But it established requirements and future compliance standards without providing any vehicle or mechanism to get there, which is massively important. So I think the next forum I'm going to open up, unless you guys just really want to write an essay on it, because I don't have my next essay scheduled until next week. Do you prefer forums or essays?
I like essays, but
I'm gonna say forum.
That's 1 and 1. Okay, if you guys don't want to sell yourselves out and tell me whether you prefer essays or forums, send me an email. Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind selling out. I'll say forum.
Woo! I'll say forum.
Forum. Sorry, Jose.
that's all right. I'll take it.
Okay. All right. So the next forum is going to be on a discussion on the business implications of picking the various C-type officers. Okay, and so we'll do some reading and we'll talk about the distinctions and the duties and where they belong in the organization, right? Because a CTO or a CIO, a Chief Information Officer, if their role is to be the head of IT overall, then cool. We need to make sure that we give them the appropriate title and duties associated with that. And to see the distinctions, go ahead and go look at places like Glassdoor and start looking at salary differences in your areas and in the field at large between CTO, CIO, CISO, and CSO, because industry thinks there's a difference overall, and the salaries that each title gets helps you see those distinctions. And then the other thing is to whom does each one of these titles answer? Should they answer to the board separately from the CEO? Should they answer to the CEO? Should they answer to the CFO? There's a big movement in industry right now to try to keep, and I know I'm talking fast, but I'm into this topic. There's a big movement in industry right now to move security out of IT. There's a big movement in industry and academia right now to move IT out of financial, because historically in a lot of organizations the IT people answer to the finance people, the business people, the people who make money-related, money-based business decisions. And how many of us think that bean counting on security systems is a good idea? Anybody? My face tells you to say none of us. Because if the people who write the checks are making the decisions, then the actual needs will not be met. It's just a fact. And so there's this huge debate on where all these people should be. The Texas DPS recently moved cybersecurity out of IT. Cybersecurity is now separate from IT and able to tell IT what to do with regards to the security of their systems, and is tasked with ensuring compliance with national and state standards surrounding those security operations. And IT is not happy about it there, from what I hear. Additionally, here at our university, just in the past couple of years, our IT department went from being a department to being a university-wide division, which meant that our assistant or associate vice president went from being an assistant or associate answering to the financial division to being a separate division answering to the president herself, which is a huge, huge distinction. But our cybersecurity, separate from our other security, I might add, is housed inside of IT and answers to not even to the CTO. Our CSO answers to an assistant or associate vice president. I don't remember if he's an assistant or associate. Vice president. And that's a huge difference between how industry and other organizations are handling these things. And so I'd like to have a discussion in the forums this week and for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to overlap the forums, by the way. I'm going to run each forum for 3 weeks at a time, and I just need everybody to post in there a minimum of 3 times so that we can demonstrate engagement in the course. That's fair, right? 3 is not that hard, right?
How long do you want the forum post?
Oh, the forum posts do not need to be super huge. I think if you're going past 250 words, you're putting an onus on people to read more than is necessarily fair. So I mean, if you make it past 250 words, you better be passionate about the topic and not just filling space, and we better be able to tell. Because brevity is sometimes key. Now, that's not counting like your citations and stuff like that. And you should be sending us places to read and then giving us your opinion or your take and giving us. It's supposed to be a conversation. It's not supposed to be an amalgamation of documents. It's supposed to be stimulus and response. You're supposed to stimulate ideas from your peers. And so if your posts are too long, nobody's going to be able to finish them all. They'll lose their motivation because it's hard to have a conversation when you want to respond to every other line in a 4-page document, right? That make sense? That add to the fairness level?
Yep.
Okay. 3 is the minimum. I'm hoping that you guys will get engaged in those conversations and that the minimum will not matter, because the the essays are supposed to be about 1,000 words, and I figure if everybody gets 1,000 words in the forum of real engaged discourse, then we've probably accomplished more than just research and regurgitation with a little bit of analysis. That's my feelings on it. So I want to talk about CTOs, CIOs, CSOs, and CISOs this week, and which one we think is the appropriate title, and if there's a distinction between organizations, which ones are effective and why. And we'll let the discussion go where it goes. That's what academia is. I'm not trying to guide you to one specific thing. I'm trying to guide us to an understanding and an ability to advance our knowledge in the area together. Okay? I mean, I learned the names of a couple new models earlier, and they're deep in my notepad now. But I'm going to have to go read about some new access control models, because maybe they're becoming more popular. You managed to find them real quickly, so I might need to update my notes. I've already learned something today. For that, thank you. Hopefully I returned the favor. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I'm good.
Okay. Cool. Andrew, Ken, Gloria, just wanted to make sure that you're there and have no comments, questions, or concerns.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I can't think of any.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure everybody's equipment was still working and not just icons on the screen. That's all. So, cool. I think I have learned how to use the forum tool properly, so it should be up tomorrow. If it's not, please email me and let me know that you can't see it, because I don't want to wait until Monday to get it up again this time. Okay? I did extend the deadline on the one that didn't go up until the Monday, until the following Monday, 3 weeks on. Near the end of the semester, we will have to go back to the essay model, because I will run out of 3-week periods, and there is a midterm and a final. Don't worry, it's open notes, open internet, open everything, and you get a few days to do it, so it's not that bad. Okay? All right.
Can you put it on a calendar?
Go ahead. What? I don't know when we're going to get through the material. I will give you plenty of notice. I don't believe in pop anything when working with a group of working professionals. But I don't know how long it's going to take us to get through the next 2 sections. So I would say, when is does anybody know when the actual midterm dates are?
No idea.
No idea.
Pretty soon, though.
But could you put it on the calendar? The
academic calendar? I don't know. Let me check real quick. And it will be before October 23rd, because I need to make sure that you have your midterm grades back to you by October 23rd. So let me pull open my calendar real quick, and we will go ahead and set a date, and I will only ask questions over what we've covered by then. How's that? Will that work for you? I will issue the midterm on the 15th of October. And I'm putting that on the calendar right now. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. And you will have the weekend to get it done. And I will then, that will give me the first few days of the week to get it back to you and provide feedback and answer any questions if there are before the 23rd of October, because that is the drop day. Okay? Also, if you didn't know, the 23rd is the drop day. If you're having issues in this class or any class, hopefully not this class, hopefully we'll be okay. If you are having trouble with the material at all, which you all, there's no dull tools in this shed, so we should be okay. I mean, hey man, you never know, but it's not a problem this time. The day could come. Okay, it's on the calendar. Anything else? That's a good housekeeping item to take care of.
Thank you.
You are welcome. October 15th. And then the final is easy to predict because it's going to be on the actual finals week. I will issue it on the Monday of finals week, and it will be due on the Thursday of finals week, giving me the weekend to grade it before grades are due. So no guessing on that one. I'm going to stop the broadcast because the people who are watching this video probably don't want to listen to us jabber about housekeeping.